welcome to episode 70 of the Blood Brothers podcast. Tonight I am joined by Rob Parker.
Hello there.
And we've got our first returnee. It is the author of the Conor Fraser series, amongst others. It is Mr. Neil Broadfoot.
Evening, how you doing, guys?
Doing great. Good to have you back, mate.
It's nice to be back, kind of, in a kitchen. That's the way we do this these days.
And what is that amber that is in your glass at the moment?
That may or may not be whiskey. It may also be apple juice. I might just be trying to, sell the hardened crime writer. And I've got my kale salad and anybody who knows.
Well, it's lovely to have you back. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me back, gents.
It's fantastic. So we're here to talk, amongst other things, about the new one, No Quarter Given.
Yep.
Can you tell us?
It's my seventh book, which is quite staggering. It's a book a year since 2014. It's the fourth Conor Fraser book. And this one is, the last time I was on here, I told you a story about back in the days when we actually did library events and stuff. I went to an event and there was this wee, very Scottish little old lady sitting with her tweed skirt and her pearls. And she sat and she took everything in. And at the end of it, she says, "You're writing a book, son? You writing another one?" "Yes." "Is it going to be about Polly? Because I really want to know about him." And this was the point of no return. And I said to her, "No, sorry, that's the next book after that." She said, "Could you hurry up and write it then, son? Because I might not be around that much longer and I really want to know what happens with Polly." So No Quarter Given was written in no way with this old lady sitting on my shoulder going, right.
The pressure and weight of her own mortality weighing down on you with every word.
It was the way that she was just so sweet, and she sat there and she listened to absolutely, God love her, every word that I said. She took it in, sat in the front row, and then the wee hand, slight shake, comes up. "Are you going to write about Polly, son?" And then when she delivered the knockout blow off, because I might not be around for too much longer, "Could you just hang up?" Oh, God. So yeah, this one is basically, it all starts with Conor's girlfriend gets hit by a car outside a pub. Sorry, not outside a pub. That's me wishful thinking. Outside the gym that she works.
Two very, very different locations, though.
Two very different locations. Conor sees it, thinks it's a hit and run, finds out it's not, at which point Polly disappears. Meanwhile, on top of that, there's a locked room mystery going on at a Scottish government building, which took me far too long to work out because I don't plan anything. And there's a few old faces from Doug and Susie.
Absolutely awesome. And because it's you, we know the quality that this will contain. So that's
thank you.
Awesome. Cannot wait. And is that little old lady, is she aware that this has happened and that
well, I've not got a Ouija board out yet, but I'll send a message to the library that I did the event at, and then I'll crack the Ouija board out so I've covered all my bases.
Seance to reach her. Yeah, first ever book launch that's a seance.
Come on, we're on it, somebody here, boys.
I think we got something here, yeah.
Supernatural Zoom calls. Who are you going to call? Crime writers. Yeah, that's right.
Does have a kind of a seance feeling, a Zoom call now, doesn't it? Actually,
yeah.
You know, like where you're waiting for people to come into the waiting room. Like, is anyone there? Are there any spirits here that want to speak to us?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. Step closer to the microphone.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, God.
Oh,
I see the apparition. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered getting out of my pajamas this morning.
Well, that's really interesting, actually, in a way, because when we last spoke to you, Neil, it was like proper dead of lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like we were in the absolute grip. And how's things been since then? I'm trying to work out. Was it like springish 2020, wasn't it, when we spoke? I think must be something like that.
Yeah, you're right, because we were in the teeth of lockdown. Yeah, we're in the teeth of lockdown 1. And I was desperately trying to write No Quarter Given, and the pandemic really messed me up. Because obviously they're contemporary books, and I spent a lot of time when I was writing it thinking, how heavily do I reference this? Do I put it front and center, or are they at the other end of it? Oh God, if only I'd written a prequel. But I was trying to figure out, this is a contemporary book. I've got the idea, it works, but Connor's tearing around trying to find Polly and stuff. How do I do that with lockdown? What do I do? And it messed me up for a long time, trying to figure out how much to put in it. But then, as we kind of saw a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, I managed to get them back out there, but then reference the stuff that's become daily life, which would be masks. That kind of group agoraphobia that people now seem to have about going into social occasions and stuff after it, that type of stuff. But yeah, it messed me up for a long time, and it made the writing process for this one, apart from the fact there was this locked room element that I didn't know how the hell I was going to solve that. That really kind of made it a difficult one. So yeah, but I'm still surviving. So
yeah, good. And how's the writing now? I mean, is that sort of solved itself a little bit? The struggle,
I think now that I've kind of unlocked the thing of the pandemic or pandemic measures, whether that be masks, social distancing signs, a wariness around big crowds of people, that's just part of life now. So I can incorporate that into the books going forward. And the next book 8, which I'm working on now to deliver next year, than this one did. Because, as I say, being in the midst of a pandemic and everything, and you're sitting and you're trying to get yourself I don't know about you guys, but I found for a lot of it, first time round, my concentration was shot.
Yeah.
Sitting down and writing just felt like something that I just didn't, I sat down, I tried to get myself into that world, and I was like, nah, it's not going to work. And off I went.
It was such an uncertain time, wasn't it? Like when we first spoke, we just didn't know when this was going to end. And arguably it hasn't ended yet. We just didn't have any end point at all. And there were these little glimmers where they'd say stuff like, things will be back to normal in summer. And then it would be, things will be back to normal at Christmas. And then Christmas really wasn't normal. And then it's that interminability of it, wasn't it? That I know just what you mean. Chris, how were you with that? You're in one of the most, how has that been for you? Because you've been in one of the most prolific years of your career.
Yeah, well, I think it's only my second year of being so,
how are you ridiculous rate of return, man? Dear me.
Yeah, but they're tiny, aren't they? I find it actually the other way because my day job's so demanding time-wise, and I would only get like snatches at night time to do it. When I wasn't in the classroom, I had sort of this free time, which is why the Stonebridge kind of novellas came around, because I couldn't get home when I wanted. I don't really get homesick usually, but I felt it, and that's why I started writing about my hometown, just to sort of feel a bit more connected.
So cool.
So yeah, a bit of sort of the other way from you, Neil.
I think it was very polarizing. It was either it completely screwed people's concentration and ability to write up, or it focused them in a way that they were so desperate to escape the headlines, which were pretty terrible. So they escaped into the world they were the world of their fiction. But yeah, I think it was a very kind of polarizing thing, and it either galvanized writers or it completely messed them up for a while.
Yeah, and I suppose that, like you were saying, it kind of relies a little bit on the on what you're writing about. Like, you felt that. What I'm getting there, though, is that you felt that it had inhibited the story massively because it was right in the middle of all that, and it was like, how do I navigate this story with something as like socially debilitating as a lockdown?
It's exactly that, because I'd always planned. I use that word very loosely. I'd always seen this as a kind of chase book where Connor's after Polly disappears, Connor's after Polly, and then there's the parallel investigation of the murder in Edinburgh. But that necessitated, I've got 2 locations for a start, because I've got Edinburgh, where the murder's taking place, and I've got Connor and Stirling and surrounding areas. I've got back and forth between that. So how do I work that out when there's a lockdown and you can't go a mile beyond home, and you're only allowed out once a day for, 40 minutes exercise or whatever it was?
Yeah.
So I had that, and that was completely messing me up. And then it was, okay, you've got a crime scene, but it's indoors, public building, but all the public buildings are okay. That's a kind of central tenet to the story. How the hell do I get my way around that? And it just completely, it buggered me up for a while, because I actually had to step back and go, right, okay, how do I do this? But then, luckily enough, the restrictions started to ease, and to be honest, desperation kicked in. and I wanted to be out there in the world. I wanted to, you know, through Connor experience, charging around the countryside looking for people, not specifically doing what Connor ends up doing, potentially getting into unfriendly conversations with people. There were days that I did feel like that. But no, so I wanted to do that. And when I saw the easing of restrictions, it was just kind of a green light and I just ran for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Because I know a lot of people who just totally ignored it, and I myself am one of them. I just went like, I have to ignore this because it will go back to normal at some point. But and because of the chronology of your stories as well, of the Fraser stories, you know, it must have been so hard to just go. I can't go back in time. You know, I'd be trying to do a story in a time frame. It's already been and gone that I've already covered. So
yeah, there was that, and the prequel story, and a few people have asked about a Connor prequel, you know, and taking him back to Belfast and seeing more of his formative time there. And I am thinking about that, but I had this very clear, I didn't have a full idea of what was going on in the story because I don't plan it, I just run. But I had a very clear feeling that this was the story that I wanted to write. And joking aside, not just for the little old lady who may or may not be around to enjoy it. I did want to write this story, it was there. And it had always been building to this point where we get into Paulie's backstory and stuff a bit more. And I didn't want to junk all that because it felt like the right story to write. But at the same time, it was the right story to write at exactly the wrong bloody time to write
it. What is, I mean, you touched on this, and Blogswitch asked about a prequel, and I think it was Louise asked about taking Connor back to Belfast. So is that something that you had thought about and have plans to do?
Yeah, I've thought about it a few times, and Vic Watson mentioned it as well. I think that was about the start of the lockdown, actually. She said, have you thought about, because we were talking about the problems that I was having, and she said, have you thought about taking back? But I've always wanted, because Connor came about partly because I spent a lot of time in Belfast as a student. I've got friends over there, I stayed over there, you know, I competed over there and stuff in amateurs. So, you know, I love Belfast and I love Northern Ireland. And part of Connor's DNA is because of that, because I wanted to write about that when I was making them up. So I thought, right, I need somebody who's a very physical, capable character. Which police officers get extra training? PSNI officers are armed. Right. The period before, I mean, I touch on it in No Man's Land, where he sees the arrest being cocked up in the centre of Belfast, and he decides he'll be a better cop than that, and that turns him into a cop, etc., etc. But there's more there, especially with his granddad and stuff, that I want to go back. And there is a story there I want to tell, which I've not told my editor yet. So I maybe should just delete that bit, because they think I'm working on one story and it might turn out to go on me that I end up with another one. But yeah, I definitely will go back at some point, because there is a story there that I want to tell.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Can I ask, what are you writing on at the moment? Working on at the moment?
The Next Corner.
Right.
Which is Devil's Due, which is another one that I've basically written myself a synopsis, written myself a first page and gone, yeah, I like that.
Away we go.
Yeah, I did, my agent, I had an idea for a standalone, and he said, right, write me a complete treatment for it. What do you call it? It's not a synopsis, it's an extended synopsis where basically it's a full breakdown of everything that happens in every chapter.
Wow.
Right? And me, with my scattered brain of, I have one line and I run it, I had to do this, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because it just killed the story stone dead.
Really?
And try to write in the Stephen King thing of writing in cold blood. You can do it, because that's the job.
Yeah.
But it really was like pulling teeth. So I prefer just to run it at 100 miles an hour. So I've come up again with a cool concept that I think is cool anyway. Tricky idea. And I'm just going to throw Connor into the deep end and see what happens.
I love that. Yeah. Sorry, Chris.
No, the standalone, doing that sort of forward-thinking, has that put you off it slightly, or are you still excited about it?
Yeah. No, I'm still excited. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
I'm still excited about it, because it takes me in a different direction, and it is quite tricksy in its nature and stuff. And as I get more experience as a writer, I'm looking for things that challenge me more. You know, like, for example, The Locked Room and No Quarter Given. 3 books ago, I couldn't have done that. Yeah. Or I could have, but then you would have been holding this with my nurse beside me, putting the Thorazine into my arm, and, you know.
So, listeners, you will have missed some incredible miming going on.
If you think one flew over the cuckoo's nest, then but no, I'm looking for things that challenge me and stretch me as a writer, because it's the old adage of you always want the next book to be the best book, and it still engages me from that, and I want to see if I can do it. But actually working the mystery out before I get to chapter 64 and I write it down and go, oh, that's what's going on, that has pulled the accelerator back a little bit, which is a really strange thing.
Yeah. Because I remember we were talking about the excitement of the blank page, weren't we? About how, one of the loves of the job for you is getting in there, seeing what you can do. Like, wow, where am I going today? And that, the excitement that the job gives you from that. Yeah,
I think that's the thing, is that hopefully, because I don't plan and because I don't figure out beforehand, I've got the vaguest idea of what's going on and then I run with it. Excuse me. And because I'm working it out in real time, as it were, on the page, it means that the story's more propulsive because I'm writing fast to try and get to the next bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully that comes across in the prose and it gives the reader a faster, more immediate, grab them by the scruff of the neck and then throw them through it experience, which the early reviews of No Quarter Given seem to bear out. So hopefully I've managed to pull the trick off.
Fabulous.
It's either that or people are being nice to me because it's so crap they're just reading it faster. Will it never end? You never know.
Pretty sure that's not the case. And you mentioned before book 7 as well. Like, I mean, is it still the same? Like book 1 through to 7, still learning on the job? Would you say, or?
Oh God, yeah. I think if you turn into one of those writers who just churn the same crap out, where it's a template and you put, well, instead of being in location A, he or she's being a pistol, it's now a knife or whatever, but the core is the same, you're treading water and you're cheapening the experience and you're selling your reader short as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to learn and you've got to expand and you've got to try and take risks and do things, because that's the only way you're going to be a better writer, and it's the only way you're going to deliver better books for the people who at the end of the day are investing their time and money in you. Yeah. So if I'm stagnant and staying still, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the next challenge and the next, thing that's going to stretch me, and the next idea that, well, I couldn't have done that 2 books ago, but I'm going to try it now. Yeah.
It's a great way to be.
I love that. Yeah, and I love talking with brilliant authors like yourself, Neil. Like, I get, it makes me buzzing hearing that. I'm buzzing to write again now. The same sort of feeling here, and it's still that you make it sound like the work of a wizard, like that kind of thing. Like, I don't know where this is going, and because of that, my writing sings because of it. I love that. It just sounds so organic and just natural to be able to do that.
I think that's exactly chaotic brain. It has to be a natural, organic thing that engages and interests me. Because if I do the plotting and the over planning and make it all very structured, I get bored with it. Yeah. And then I'm not interested with it. And then I'm not putting 110% of my energy in. Mm. And then I'm not walking around the fields with the dog and he's saying, can we just go home now? And I'm saying, no, we're going an hour, 2 miles because I've still got to try and figure this out in my head. And, if I've got it all figured out, it loses some of the energy for me.
Yeah. It's so cool.
What I would say is it's not the most relaxing way to write.
No.
Listeners, Neil is downing a large whiskey at this point with a shaking hand.
He did as well, He did. It all went south. It was apple juice. It was apple juice. He just chinned an apple juice. Sorry, on a podcast recently, I did have a little tumbler and I kept pouring Bud Light into it and kept throwing it back. Looked like I went through an absolute pile of spirit on that one. Although because it was Bud Light, it looked very weak. So rumbled immediately. Chris, have we got some Twitter questions?
Yes, we've dealt with Anne and Louise. Tony Kent, I think
what
we
a
saw
man.
this before, but Tony Kent said,
Tony.
How would Connor deal with things if Jack Reacher was tearing things up around Stirling? I mean, there was a crossover waiting to happen.
Ooh, yeah.
God, that's a good question. Obviously, he'd be interested because if somebody's tearing up his patch, he'd want to know why, and Connor being Connor would be front and centre in it. I think that probably, I think they'd get on to an extent, but then they'd bash off each other in another, because Reacher's not one to back down, and Connor, for good or ill, is not a man to back down. So, yeah, watch this space. Actually, if anybody could write that, Tony, if you're out there, you have my permission to go.
What would you consider teaming up with Andrew Child and doing that as a double-hander?
I've not read the new. I must admit, I've not read the new. What was it called? The first one that he did with Lee Child.
Was it the Sentinel?
Sentinel, yes. I've not read it, so I don't know what they're like. But would I? That's the old Tom Cruise question, isn't it? Would you consider teaming up with the millionaire author Lee Child? Well, let me think about it for a minute.
Yeah, because there is an author I'd like to. He knows I'd like to do a team up book with him. Yeah, and put one of my characters with one of his characters. I'd love to do that, but I'm just navigating this. How other authors feel about this before I go down on bended knee and ask this author whether we can do it.
Are we allowed to know who it is?
I don't think we can. I don't know. I think he knows. This is like talking about your high school crush, isn't it?
Well, hold on. If we're going to do that, I need a bigger whiskey.
Which author, Rob, do you have the authorly hots for?
I tell you what, though, joking aside, there is one book that I read recently that was amazing, but the level of sheer, there's no other way to say it, the balls that it took to take that on was Ian Rankin and the William McElvany.
Oh, yeah.
Out remains. I mean, if anybody, Ian did it, and he has done it, but to take that on, Jesus, that must have been
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Oh, you run away hiding from that one, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, God Almighty.
We should get this case. We've got a special guest.
It is no longer apple juice.
No, you're very close, Neil. It's just me.
We have a guest in the booth.
Mr. Douglas Skelton's joined us. Hello.
Hello there.
Now, don't do that. As we've said in newspapers, only respectful people get the honorific Mr. It's the old git, the old man, him, that which shall not be named.
Thanks for joining us, Douglas. How are you doing?
I'm perfectly fine. How are you? And how you been getting on with, what's his name again?
We're getting on great. He's our first return customer.
What, he's been on before?
Yeah.
Is this like sort of care in the community that you're doing? You just head out there into the street and said, come on, you look like you could maybe string a word or two together now and again. Come on into our podcast.
He is. It's care in the community, but he's doing the care in the community for us.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
We thought we'd invite Douglas tonight because he had a few very nice questions to ask, and I didn't think I could do it justice, so we thought we'd invite him along.
Yeah. So, Neil, on the cover of your books, is that you that's posing in the coat and, thankfully looking away from the camera?
Of course it is, Douglas. Who else could carry off such a silhouette, such brooding intensity? All I do to get the characters, I think about you, and then I'm so angry I want to go and be murderous to something, so it's fine.
Neil, you know that I know you. I know that you're angry all the time. Now, follow-up question to that then. Is it true that you changed your profile picture and broke Facebook?
All I can say, Mr. Skelton, is confer with my lawyers. I have no further comment to make on this issue.
Listeners,
the thought of Nick Clegg having a bad night on my behalf. That life goes up there, so I'm going to take responsibility for that after all. Yeah.
Listeners, we need to point out this is being recorded on the night that Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp all went down all at once, for context purposes.
In fact, may well still be down when this goes out. You never know.
That's right. Well, no, I've seen that the Facebook.com domain name is up for sale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really gone pear-shaped. So, lads, should we do a 4-hander and go and buy this? Get on domainquick.com and get that sucker locked in. Sorry, it's supposed to keep schemes like that off of public radio.
Yeah, that's
public
true.
airwaves.
It's all right. By the time this airs, we'll have done it and we'll all be billionaires by that point. So
That's it. And we can put whatever profile pictures up we want, can't we?
Yeah.
While we've got you, Douglas, how are things with yourself?
All fine. Suddenly very busy. I don't know why. But I just seem to have things to do, because I was sitting in the green room, for the half hour before I came on there. It's actually my living room, but I spilt a pot of paint the other night. And
that one actually hurt.
I was thinking, all the things that I've got to do this week, like hoovering, dusting, that sort of thing, cooking, avoiding Neil as much as I can.
You say that, and yet you come on here. The gentleman doth protest too much.
Yes, this is the tea cozy of inspiration. Unfortunately, your listeners, can't see it, but I am wearing. Hang on till I have a wee look at it myself. A sort of blue and a blue tea cozy with flowers on it, and this is the tea cozy of inspiration. This is what we use in the Four Blokes in Search of a Plot.
Yes.
Of which Neil is a very small part. And it's very fetching, and it comes from the old the Billy Connolly quote that never trust a man who, when left alone with a tea cozy, doesn't try it on. So, and in the Four Blokes, you have to wear this as you're writing your part of the story. I'll take it off now. Because Neil's getting jealous because I've got it and he doesn't.
Are there any plans to go live with your show again?
Or in Neil's case, almost live. But yeah, I mean, we'd love to. But we need to wait and see. I think it'll probably be next year before anything like that happens.
Yeah. We were talking about the difficulties of writing in lockdown, because obviously when we first spoke to Neil, it was in the absolute grip of lockdown 1. But are the words coming all right for you at the minute then, Douglas?
Well, I'm not actually writing anything apart from an occasional note for the milkman, which is funny because I don't have a milkman. But
just wistful notes in the hope that they might find a milkman.
It's like it's like messaging a bottle on a doorstep. It's like,
in a milk bottle, I hope. Sorry,
yes.
The gags are really coming thick and fast here.
No, at the moment, I'm not actually writing anything. I will be getting down to writing something in the very near future. But as we all know, you have to build up to these things. You can't just launch yourself into it. You've got all sorts of exercises to do and a lot of procrastination before you can actually sit down and put finger to keyboard, as it were. Yeah,
we percolation is the one I feel like. I feel like everything percolates like mad.
It does.
Until you want to pop and you burst in to hit the keyboard. Yeah. Do we have any other Twitter questions? There was loads. Twitter went off mad, Chris.
There were. Well, I think we sort of broached 2 of them, and then I think the rest. Yeah, I think we're done with Twitter questions actually. Unless Neil, did some get sent to you and that I've missed?
I don't think so.
No, then we're free.
Free to discuss whatever.
Since you're here, do you want to play a game, Douglas?
Hang on. Does it involve any form of public nudity? Because that there are sorts of legal documents to prevent me from doing that anymore.
Just don't lose then. Neil, you'll have played a game before, but we've changed it slightly. So we've looked at some of the reviews for Neil's book, and we've chosen a 1-star review, and then we've looked at what that person also reviewed. And you just have to guess whether it's a 1-star or a 5-star.
I'll get back to my favourite review of all time in a minute, but yeah. Let's play.
This is the Veselovsky version of the game, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're contractually obliged to mention his name whenever we play
every
this.
time we play. So I've chosen 2 items tonight. The first one is a mug. And remember, Neil, this person gave your book a 1 star.
Which book was it?
Pick one.
I can't quite remember, actually. I can go and look afterwards, but the first, so this is the first item that I've chosen. It's a mug, and instead of Aldi on it, it says oldie, with a sort of person, like an old person bent over a walking stick.
So what did they give that?
What did they give that? 1 star or 5 star?
So the person who gave one of Neil's books 1 star also rated this mug that says oldie on it 1 star or 5 star.
Yes.
Neil?
It's got to be 5 star, hasn't
It 5 star.
it? Got to be 5 star.
Douglas, what do you think?
They're all
Well, I'd give.
Well, for the interest
I'd
of
buy it.
competition, I'm going to go. I'm going to 1 star. This did not hit. They bought it, but then found it extremely offensive once it had arrived.
Well,
No, that's the review of my book, Rob. We're talking about.
it was 5 star. The little subtitle is funny, and the review is, "This is a great idea for a gift. You can never have too many mugs, and this jokey one is very sturdy and a good size for tea/coffee drinkers. If you like the pun, so much the better."
Full disclosure, I actually did leave both reviews. As soon as you said the 1 star for Neil, I knew it was me.
Is that an oldie mug I can see behind you there, Douglas?
No, there's an oldie mug here in front of you.
The second item is, we don't normally pick another book, but tonight I have. And it's A Rattle of Bones by Douglas Skelton. And this was before I knew you were coming on.
Oh, so we have to decide what Rattle of Bones got, 1 or 5.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, go for it.
I'm going 5 because I'm a generous old soul, and he needs the ego stroke. So even if it was 1, just say it was 5. Right? Yeah, 5.
Well, I'm going to have to go 1 then, just to be different.
I'm going to say 5 as well.
It is 5. Yeah. It's quite a long one, but I'll pick out so it says the third item for Rebecca Connolly is another cracker from Douglas Skelton. Nice stuff about the story. And then what I will do is recommend that you read this book and others by Douglas Skelton. I promise you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I remember writing that one.
I mean, that gives fuel for your banter, gents, for quite some time, I would imagine.
This isn't banter. This is fight to the death stuff. I can bear in my existence. First writer I met when I got published. And it's all been, it's like this. I'm the first guy to return, and the only way is up for you guys. I met him first, and it's all been up from there.
Well, when I met Neil, he was going through his New Romantics phase of his development, and he was wearing, a hussar's jacket, and he had the sort of the adamant hairstyle and things like that. And, he made Boy George look like The Rock. So I think he has actually, come on a bit. He has this knack of being able. I mean, it's really quite impressive. It's have this knack of being able to fit in anywhere because he's something of a camera chameleon, and it's something that I wish we all wish that we could do.
And have you read No Quarter Given, Douglas?
Neil, have I read No Quarter Given? I have, haven't I?
This
I get confused. I get confused.
One of his own books that Yes, you have.
Yes. Is this one of the ones I've read in installments?
Yes.
Yes. Right.
This-
Swimming
this-
pool.
We were on stage one night and we were talking about a book. It was which one was it? Well, why am I asking you? You won't remember.
Thunder Bay.
It was Thunder Bay, and he couldn't remember the title of his own book.
Yeah. I called it Thunder Road, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it ever called Thunder Road at any point in development?
No. I was just in my Bruce Springsteen phase.
Well, I mean, we always ask about what each of us are reading, so this seems like a logical topic to ask. But Neil, what are you reading at the moment?
Close to the Grave by Robbie
Edge
Morrison.
of the Grave. Edge of the Grave.
Edge of the Grave, sorry. Well, at least it wasn't my own book. I couldn't remember the title. Yeah, I'm reading that. It's absolutely brilliant. I can see why it won, and if it continues with the same quality that I've got so far, I'm about 3/4 of the way through. That's a writer to watch. It's just brilliant.
Amazing. Awesome. Douglas, what about yourself? What are you reading at the moment?
By a strange stroke of coincidence, the very same book. Not the same copy, because that would just be creepy. But
are you in different rooms? Are you in the same building?
we're not even in the same country. I'm in Scotland and he's over on the East Coast somewhere.
You know when civil wars sparked off in
Can I
the
just point out, he was sitting at a table that I built for him.
Oh!
A bed that I made for him by a chest of drawers that I bloody made for him. So,
you know, care in the community. You know,
thing.
he was out there in the streets, you know, causing all sorts of trouble. It was like West Side Story. He was snapping his fingers and he was jiving about. And I was like, get in here, boy. Get this desk constructed. Get some constructive work done here instead of this pouncing around out there and singing songs. With your Adamite hairstyle.
Your publicist is going to kill us.
Oh, okay. So Edge of the Grave, any good? Yeah, it's going on.
It is. I've almost finished it. And it is very good.
Brilliant. It's definitely one on my list of ones I want to read. Chris, what about you? Oh, no way, you're reading it as well.
I'm not reading it.
All right. No way.
Last night I finished Will Carver's Psychopaths Anonymous.
Oh,
it was great. And today I started Michael Connolly's The Dark Hours.
I want to read that one.
Lovely.
Because I reckon we can say it.
Yes, I think well, if we're being sent the proofs, we can say it, I think.
Yeah. Because he's coming on the show next month.
Yeah.
So that's
going to be cool.
Wow.
I'm nervous. Yeah, I wasn't nervous until you said that.
Now I started reading it and I thought, hey man, I've got to speak to this guy.
Yeah. And is it any good? Sorry.
Yeah. It's funny because it is really good. I'm only 2 chapters in. I only started tonight. But like Neil, we were talking about how COVID affects it, and in the first 2 chapters, he's talked about like everyone having to wear masks, like George Floyd, the sort of aftermath of that, and the mistrust of the police. So I think it's going to be like quite a political one, which like it's quite it's a really, really good start, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going. Yeah, it'll be interesting. What about you, Rob?
Well, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before that I was about to start Bad Apples by Will Dean. I've, you know what it's like when you I've had to do an edit these last 2 weeks, and I just couldn't read anything during it. You know, I think we all understand what that's like. If you reading something else that you're really enjoying, it sort of infects you a little bit, and I had to pull back a little bit, but I'm on 90% at the moment, and it's like I cannot wait to go to bed to finish this thing off. It's so good. And he said this thing in it. There's a character in this book that was involved in civil war at some point overseas, and it's this line. It's been in my head ever since. That we're only, any nation is only 5 mistakes and a charismatic leader away from demolition. The essential, self-destruction. I just think, wow, isn't that? It's absolutely smashed it there, for me. And so it's what I've been thinking about ever since. I know this is ridiculous to say, but I'm speaking with Will himself and Joseph Knox tomorrow night in Manchester, because live events are slowly coming back.
Yes.
So it's absolutely pointless saying that, because this will come out on like Thursday and it'll have been and gone. What can you do? Promoting events in the past, that's what we're good for.
It's ultimately going to be sold out, isn't it?
Apparently so, yeah. Apparently so. But yeah. In fact, can I do plug an event that's coming up, because it will come out before this. The Northern Crime Syndicate have got a live event at the Word on Saturday 9th. Is it the 9th?
It is the 9th, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm doing a writing workshop there about planning, which for someone who doesn't plan is quite an interesting task.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's my career. Here's what not to do.
Yes.
Here's the way.
Basically, it was like when one of the local schools called me up and said, "Would you come in and do a love poetry workshop?" Whew, I'm not the guy for that. I had to leave. Actually, I had to leave because a guy, a kid stood up, and I'm not mentioning what school or where this was or anything like that, but it was extremely sexual, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take it. It was about dipping jammy dodgers. Really, I had to go. I knew
you said you had to leave. Were you asked to leave?
No. No. Just I couldn't. It was not appropriate for me to stand there with this face. I was struggling to hold it together. But we got there. We made it happen. But I've got a question I'd really like to ask, if that's okay. Who this is a segue mania. This is ridiculous. We're going off sideways here.
Well structured normally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the guy doing the planning workshop, of course. Who do you look at on the crime scene at the moment? Who are you looking at and going like, "Oh, that's exciting. What they're doing is exciting." Because I get dead excited talking about this. Who do you look at, and whose work are you really enjoying at the moment, and who do you think, oh, there's a big career kicking off there, or very interesting work? But yeah, go for it now.
The one we were just talking about, Robbie Morrison's, is brilliant. Rarely do you read a debut and go, yeah, this boy's got the juice. There's something in this from the first page, and seriously, get a copy, sit down. I guarantee you'll love it. I look forward to the message from you saying you were right.
Yeah.
Which is something Douglas is not a big enough man to ever send me that message, so you can just step in.
That's because you're very seldom right.
When I'm right, I am right. I think, as you say, good work excites you, and Craig Russell's one that just won the Book of the Year award, Hyde. And speaking of events, I'm doing 2 events with him in Glasgow and Edinburgh later in the month. Real
nice.
Event.
Plug them, man. When are they?
First one is the 18th in Glasgow at Argyle Street. The next one is the 28th of October in Waterston's West End in Edinburgh.
Awesome.
Come on, come all, please. But Craig's a brilliant writer. For some reason, he's not a big name here. He's massive in Germany. But as I've said to you before, Craig wrote the most affecting piece of work. I mean, I've read horror, everything. Nothing really gets in and gets you. There's a book that Craig wrote called The Third Testament, and he writes this one chapter about a woman who has dementia. And the chapter starts with her turning. She's got a silver frame picture, and she notices that it's just off angle. So she turns it, and then she goes a wander around the house, and she sees the frame is off kilter, so she turns it again. And for that chapter, you have dementia. Craig writes so well that chapter gives you dementia. And it's the only book that I have ever written that I've gone, okay, I'm done with that for a little while. I'm going to go out into the real world and get that out of my head.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
That excites me. Other writers, Doug Johnson's great. He does great stuff. I've mentioned Ian Rankin in the McIlvany stuff. That was just how Ian managed to inhabit William McIlvanney's voice and get it, I don't know. Because that, I mean, I couldn't take that on. I'm not sure very many writers could, but he's done it in such a way that you don't see the joins.
Yeah.
And you do think, oh God, it's William McIlvanney again. It's just incredibly well done. So that was an exciting book to read. Louise Welsh has got a sequel to The Cutting Room coming out. You know, she won the, what was she won? She won the Dagger for it, didn't she? Her debut.
Oh, I don't know.
It's the Glasgow-based auctioneer Rilke. And he gets involved in a kind of, he finds something in an auction and it sets him off in a murder mystery. And she won lots of prizes for that.
What's the first one called?
That was brilliant.
Did you say?
Say again, sorry?
The Cutting Room, was it?
The Cutting Room was the first one. I think the sequel's called The Second Cut. Yes, it is. The Second Cut, and it's out next year. And that was just a brilliant book.
Oh, I love how our own reading lists blossom when we ask a question like this. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah,
I'll read that one. Yeah.
Awesome.
What about yourself, Douglas? Who excites you at the minute then?
Loath as I am to agree with Neil, but I'm going to agree with everything that he said there. But I would add our friends, Denzel Myrick, who's doing some good stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Carol Ramsey, who just seems to churn them out. Michael J. Malone, Teresa Talbot, the stuff that she's written is all good. Gordon Brown, Morgan Cry, Mark Leggett, I know these are all friends, but I do genuinely enjoy their books. So
I think that's one of the nice things about putting all the joking aside. One of the nice things about the community is you're with like-minded people who, as we were talking about, you get excited about this stuff, and then you see your mates produce good work, and it excites you.
Yeah,
There is that moment of, well done, you did that. Yeah. Go on, go further, and it's great to see.
Yeah, and because we're like-minded like that, on this screen here, you could see while you guys were talking and mentioning those names, me and Chris on one side, like making notes like mad, like getting it all down. Because at the end of the day, we love the books. We love books. That's what we're in. It's what brings us all together at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's the love of a good story. It's the love of a good, well-told story with good characters. That takes you somewhere else, that hits you some way, like Craig's book did, or it makes you think about something. Like Helen Fields wrote a book about coercive control. She wrote it as H.S. Chandler, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it just now. Degrees of Guilt. And that was all about coercive control and abusive relationships. And it was a brilliant book, and it made you think about the subject. And then you have the added bonus of, well, she's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And she's done that.
You can tell them personally what that, I do love that stuff. That's so, it's so good. I'm buzzing now again. Just want to get writing again. It's amazing. What about, Chris, what about you? Who excites you? Sorry, I've got to try and find a new way of phrasing this question because it's a little bit ugly, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm still thinking about dipping Jammy Dodgers. I don't know if
but that's you're always hungry.
I will off air, whenever. I will send you the poem as I remember it, and that is not even the tip of the iceberg. Again, appalling choice of phrase there too, but it is So, Chris, who excites you? Did it again, obviously. Said it again. Who do you enjoy, Chris?
I enjoy a number of people. I think Will Carver, I've mentioned him already, but I think anything he writes is just, you're going to get something original and inventive. I think it's class. Stephen Gould, I think a similar thing. Anything he writes, you're guaranteed like to feel stuff that you've never felt before, I think.
Yeah.
And Dom Nolan, who, I mean, his Boone books were great, but Vine Street is probably the best book I've read this year. And I think that's his third book.
Yeah.
And I mean, he spoke to us about some of the ideas that he had probably a year ago, and I still think about the twins. Do you remember he said something about the twins, that they'd never been outside of the house, and when one does, time goes faster for one of them and stuff. Like, what is in his head?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. It's a hard question.
It is. There's tons of them.
There's so many, but like off the top of my head, if I were to answer my own question about excitement,
This is what he's wanted the whole time.
It's a heavy nod. Louise Beach, I think, just gets better with every book. I think she's unbelievable. I mentioned Will Dean before, but seriously, like now he's gone into these standalones. The Moodysson stuff is amazing, but the standalone stuff, what I nearly called it No Time to Die. It's not called that at all. That's a James Bond film, Rob, which we won't discuss whether it's any good or not, which we won't. I can't. No, what's he got? Last Thing to Burn. That's it. Another standalone coming. Very exciting what he's doing. Yeah, there's so much great stuff out there. It's always brilliant, always brilliant. And it's like, because the community is the way it is, when you see someone get the green light that they're doing something good at a new publisher or the same publisher or whatever, you feel that same sense of jubilation for them as well, which is so cool. Because we've still got a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask one of my favorite questions, if that's all right, about what other genre you'd like to write in. Is there any of that?
First?
Sorry, Neil.
I was saying to Douglas, I was trying to be gentlemanly and pass it to the old man because I can see that he's nodding off.
No, I was actually not nodding. I was actually stunned that you're trying to be gentlemanly.
Yeah, if it wasn't like we had no external pressures and you could be, you could go and write as Douglas Skelton in any genre you wanted, what would you like to crack
Douglas
at?
has done
it. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Tell us more, Mr. Skelton. Tell us more.
I have written in another genre. It's not. It's out on submission at the moment. So
wow,
to find out. So,
and you're going to edit this out, but it is very good. I have read it, and it is very, very good, and it's going to get picked up.
Can we ask the genre?
Yeah, it's historical.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I misread that. It's hysterical.
You had it written down what genre this new book that you wrote is.
I forget my titles. So,
so what?
Have you seen the video, right? He walks around. He's basically writing things on himself to remember. Note to Milkman.
Yep.
That type of stuff.
How historical are we talking?
I've got my name, in the back of everything that I wear, so that's how I know my name is St. Michael. How historical? It's 1715, which that's quarter past 5 for Neil's benefit. No, it's set in 1715.
We nearly had a Guinness interface there. That nearly.
No, I've read it. It is exceptionally good.
Oh, very cool, man. That's very, very cool. And what about yourself, Neil? What would you delve into if you could?
I actually owe a friend a horror story, a horror novel.
Yeah.
The guy who did the initial, I had my oldest friend when we were growing up. It was always, I'll write a book and you'll do the covers for the books, because he's a massively talented graphic artist. And growing up, we used to kind of watch a lot of 80s horror films and stuff, and I cut my teeth writing horror short stories. And I knew I'd got it right when I'd scared the living hell out of him one night when he ran away from my house, and he ran lamppost to lamppost so he wouldn't be in the shadows. You ever seen a 6 foot tall 17-year-old running lamppost to lamppost to just stay in the light? And I always promised him that I'd write him a horror novel, so I owe Joe a horror novel, so that's where I'd go.
Awesome. Chris? I know we talk about this quite a bit, but Chris, is there a secret genre you'd like to?
I don't know. I feel put on the spot.
I'm sorry. Because we always talk about being pigeonholed, don't we, as authors? You often get pigeonholed as the crime guy or the, this guy or whatever,
Yeah.
You see now a guy in Douglas's case.
Well, I was thinking that it wasn't actually the story that scared your pal. It was, your adamant hairstyle that night, probably. when you jumped up on the table as stand there.
Sorry.
Right, Rob. Have you thought of it? What you'd like to write?
No, I don't know. No, I've asked the question. I don't
On the
know.
other side, isn't it?
It's hard, yeah. I've had a little wiggle on horror. That's not a nice expression either, really, is it? I think I'd like. I don't know. Like a drama thing, possibly. No, I'd be awful at that. I don't know. I'd be terrible at that. I don't know. I can think of things I'd be really bad at. I don't think I have anything I'd really like.
50 Shades of Jammy Dodgers, you could do that.
This poem was arguably more graphic.
The Biscuit, an adventure in 3 acts.
So,
I mean, this episode is going to go down in history.
Unbroadcastable. Let's be honest about it. You're going to jump straight to episode 71, and we'll never talk about this again.
Just tapes.
Right, well, we should probably say goodbye and forget this ever happened.
The lawyers get involved.
It's been great to hang out with all three of you. It's been so good. Neil, thanks for everything, man. Good luck with No Quarter Given. That's obviously it's November 9th.
It is. So thank you very much.
All the best, man. Long may Connor Fraser
Thank you very much.
And thanks so much, Douglas, for coming on
No.
and lending your light to what has been a splendid conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm now going off in search of Jammy Dodgers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.